The Brian John Show. God damn, this is so cringy. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. I guess the first episode of the Brian John Show. I thought I would start off this newly started. I don't want to call it a podcast. What should I call this, Dylan? I would call this like an interview series.
Yeah,
I,
probably.
I've been planning this actually for a while. I've wanted to do this for a while, just because I think I have a wide variety of interesting friends. And to get serious for a second, I think today's students and students like just in general, and I think you can be the best like a testament of this is they don't know what's out there. Like they don't know the opportunities that are out there, and they get really molded into these jobs that our parents have told us to be, or like what we've learned to be as stable, which is I think is fine. I actually commend people that stay in stable roles, but I also want people to have, especially college students, to have a flavor of what is possible. Like that's like my thesis
Mhm.
for this series. And you actually for full transparency, one, my other videos have not been doing that well. So I'm trying different things until it sticks in the wall. But two, I would
Yeah,
say what I do best at is conversation, getting things out of people, and leveraging my network. And I happen to have cool people around me, which Dylan Ritchie, like top of that list for me. So without much further ado, um, we have my good friend Dylan here, who, as a quick introduction, went to one of the best schools in the world, alongside myself. Studied accounting and business administration, which was a unique major at our school that made it sound like you have two majors.
they're
And
not.
but they're not. It's actually one major, and that major's gone. Became an accountant post college, and then through a series of coincidences and circumstances, is actually an accountant now, but started day trading, but not in the sense of like Robinhood GME to the moon, but seriously day trading. Did extremely well, and I'm going to let him talk about it as comfortable as they can be. And now is in process still, and already an owner of a soccer club, and has future plans to run his own fund and basically retire alongside with me next year. Um,
Yeah,
Dylan,
we'll live on a yacht together.
Dylan,
Um,
welcome to the show.
Hello, glad to be here. Granted, I've watched every single episode, every minute, so this is a big deal for me. Um,
Number one
and
fan.
yeah, I'm number one fan. I haven't posted anything, no comments, because at first I thought you were trying to be anonymous on like the first early videos. So I was like, I don't know if he wants people like that he knows posting around, because I thought you were trying to make it something like completely separate. But then eventually you dox yourself over time.
I actually, so funny that, let's start with that. Funny that you say that. I was taking a pretty careful approach because, I was in a pretty high class profile role.
Yeah,
And it had to
this
be
was when
people.
you were still at Lincoln at the time,
It
right?
was, it was. And so I was in banking, talking about banking, and like I didn't want to be that guy, which hypocritically I was being that guy, and I took off being that guy. But yeah, I was very careful in doxing myself fully. Like my account name was just Brian.
Yeah.
Whenever people asked me where do you work, I would ignore the question. If you go back to my comments, it's kind of funny how I
No, I
dodge
remember.
every
Yeah.
question about myself.
Yeah. I was like, well, obviously, like I knew everything about you. So I was like, this is funny for me, like watching this. He's trying to be anonymous. And I was like, when is he going to give something away? And like
Oh
every
man.
video you would like accidentally slip, because it's impossible to like
Right, right,
not have your personal life in your life.
right. I would
Like
slip.
when you're talking about in Chicago and like people would talk to you like outside your apartment building. I imagine in your head you were like, I hope they don't know I live here. And they can figure everything out at first. But then eventually you're just like, whatever. It's probably better for my
Exactly.
brand.
No,
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened. I think like 6 months in, I was like, you know what? What is there to lose? It's 2021, like 2020. I just gave up.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of 2020, pretty pivotal year in both of our lives, I would say.
100%.
100% prior to 2020. So Dylan, you actually, funny enough, you and I both graduated a semester early, technically in
Yep.
2018. But we're I guess technically is not the right word. We are part of the class of 2019, but we graduated in the
Yeah.
winter of 2018. You graduated with accounting and business administration. In the world of like professional services, including banking, accounting, the summer before senior year is quite crucial, and that's like when
Yeah.
everyone that I like mentor or talk to is worried about their internship. Let's start there. So you were an intern, you were a finance accounting intern that summer. Um,
Yeah.
how'd you get that role? Like, what was it like? What did you literally do during that role? Walk me through it.
Yep. So junior to senior year, I had locked down an internship in finance, accounting intern, whatever you want to label it. But basically I just applied for it. And, and then that whole world of getting the internships, if you're not going like the iBanking internship route, which you've talked about before on this channel, is a whole different competitive world. It's more, if you're going just a regular business corporate internship in like finance or accounting, it's more so just like knowing someone that gets you in there, or like, the connection gets you in, or you go to the right school or something like that. So I actually didn't have anyone that connected me in it. Luckily, I still got it. The reason I say that is because I got like 27 no's to everything else I applied, even though I like technically qualified and like should have been able to get it. I think someone went to Washington and Lee that was tangentially related to the hiring process of the interns, because we actually had 2 Washington Lee interns, and said, hey, you can probably trust these guys to get this stuff done. It was actually a guy who played in the basketball team as well. And that's how we initially got our first interviews. And then I think once they spoke to me and they saw that I at least knew somewhat what I was talking about and like I wanted to do well, that's how I got in with Canteen, which is one of the biggest vending companies in the world. You guys have probably bought stuff. If you ever stopped at like a rest stop on the way, like look at the sticker on your vending machine. It normally says Canteen, which is owned by Compass Group, which is it's the only company I've ever worked for in 3 separate roles since I started working, other than Chick-fil-A when I was like 16. But
briefly touching on it. So it sounds like you made some connections through the school and then you found yourself in the role. In terms of motivation, what besides being an accounting major, I guess we can even start there. What drew you to accounting? Like I hope you didn't wake up one day and you're like, I love accounting.
No, this will be probably like some people who are in accounting might realize they've never connected this in their head. I didn't connect this till after I had majored in accounting. So, how we end up in algebra, like middle school towards the beginning of high school. And then obviously you end up in calculus. Calculus racks a lot of people's brains, but like algebra, like if you're into math, like you generally get that. Like that's a thing that comes pretty quickly to you. It's very easy to you. And then everything from that point on is complicated. And generally you're going to be an engineer or mathematician. Accounting is literally just algebra, like algebra 1, not algebra 2 or anything.
I agree.
Literally just algebra 1. So like if you roll up to algebra 1 and like your brain just connects the dot and finds X, like automatically you have an accounting brain. Oh, like straight up, like you're going to do well. And so when I took my first accounting class, I always wanted to be a civil engineer growing up because I just loved building stuff and the way stuff was designed. And I always liked math. So like people, you got to be an engineer. That was like the first thing that people tell you. And then, or at least from where I'm from, they don't tell you to go work on Wall Street or work in investment banking or anything like that. They say, go be an engineer. I think that's probably like based on where you come from, it's probably what people say to you when you're like good at math or something. So long story short, algebra brain, like made sense to me. When I got into accounting, they're like, it either makes sense to you or it doesn't. And then accounting made sense to me at the early classes. So I was like, I should actually take some more classes in this. And then from there, it was just like, I just kept kind of understanding accounting. And then like you talked about, like, I do work really hard. So when like, there were problems with, getting into cost accounting or anything, I kind of pushed through it and realized, okay, yeah, like I could actually do this as a professional. Like, I could go work for a big 4 firm and like, sure, I would have to work really hard because I'm not the smartest dude in the world, but like I grasped it enough to be able to do it. And that's how I ended up choosing accounting over really anything else. Well, I knew from talking to you and like Buddy and a bunch of other guys who are going the investment banking route. And I talked to my friend Dylan Stroud, who had just done like, I think it was a Wells Fargo internship. I don't know if you knew him. He was like 2 years older.
I don't think so.
So he had just told me about how difficult it was for him to train for soccer over the summer while he was in his internship. And so for me, and how into soccer I was.
I do.
That was like no. I was like, no way I'm doing that over the summer. I got to get ready for the freaking season. So that was actually the main reason I ended up not doing banking, was because I wanted to be able to train for soccer over the summer. Because for people who don't know, like, so I played soccer at WNL. Like you have to play over the summer if you want to go professional in this league called USL2 with all the other D1 guys. Even though we were a D3 school, you have to go compete with the best of the best. So for me, that was why I ended up not choosing iBanking. It's because I wanted to play soccer. But yeah, that's how I ended up in accounting. iBanking was taken out of the picture because of soccer, sort of. And then I was like, oh, I understand accounting. I could probably get like a 40 to 60 hour work week, just depending on like what type of firm you go to. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I can make decent money, eventually get my CPA, all that.
So Dylan, in some ways, I mean, I obviously knew all this. I'm pretending like I'm hearing this for the first time, but in some ways, it seems like very early on, you accomplished something that most people never accomplish, where there was something that you actually cared about, which was soccer. I'm sure you somewhat cared about accounting, but there was soccer that you cared about, and you, I wouldn't say you pick and chose, but you catered a profession / major / role that would be compatible with chasing that like true dream of yours. And you knew early on, like banking wasn't going to work because of the timing, and accounting was something that came easy to you. And to not, I guess, not only put Dylan on the weird flex train, I'll weirdly flex too. I was an accounting major, and just to like go full douchey for a second, I chose accounting also because I hated school. I hated studying. I've never enjoyed studying, and accounting came so easily to me. I know exactly what Dylan's talking about in the algebra 1 analogy. I remember when I took financial accounting for the first time in college. It was sophomore year. I didn't know anything about accounting. I just knew that it was a form of counting, which is why it's called accounting. And I don't know how else to say this, but I would just flat get hundreds on test after test without any studying, because it came so naturally to me. And
that's why we became friends. I was like, this dude's killing it.
and it wasn't, I don't even think it's because I was naturally talented or overly brilliant. I think accounting is one of those things where you either get it or you don't. And if you get it, you really get it. And if you don't get it, you really don't get it. Because I saw some of my peers who were much smarter than me in other things that just could not get it. And to me, it just seemed like adding and subtracting numbers, which we've been doing for 16 years. But I think that's a great attempt to, if you have other aspirations and you're not someone that's like overly diehard on a career, because I wouldn't say people that are like crazy ambitious career wise would become an accountant. Like they would probably go for something a bit more challenging. Like accounting doesn't have the most like ambitious name in the world, but if it's something that like comes easier to you and you have the opportunity of getting into it, I do recommend it to people that are of that school of thought.
Definitely.
Let's quickly shift gears. So I don't want to poke you where it hurts, but you started working full time, right? After graduating, you were pursuing professional soccer for a bit.
Yep. I was doing both at the same time. So fall of 2019, I had made, for what people might understand the minor league system of baseball better. So what I had made a team that would be classified as like AA for baseball, but for soccer. So professional, but not like the top where you're getting paid millions of dollars. And I was still working at the time. So basically I'd worked out a deal. I had done well enough where my job wanted to keep me on. And I told them I want to still advance my career. So I would literally go train in the mornings at 9 or 10 for 2 hours. And then I would fly over to work, sometimes not shower, just change, hop in and like put in like a 7 to 8 hour day. This was with my first job.
Sure.
My corporate accounting job that I had with Compass Group. I would go train, then go work. And I would just continuously do that up until COVID ended, all of that.
It's just the pure dedication. But to me, it makes sense because you love soccer. Like you still love soccer. You always love soccer. And it makes sense to prioritize it. And to your point, the work obviously liked you and they were fine with whatever you're doing as long as the work was getting done. You were living the COVID lifestyle before COVID even hit.
Exactly. It was so weird that like now, if I would have asked to have done that, or with my current job, if I'd asked to do that, they'd be like, probably, it's fine.
Well, sure.
But like, I was so stressed. Heart was pounding. Anxiety was like, I was like, I don't want to lose. Cause I mean, that was my way of making money because I wasn't making money for the soccer thing. And I was like, I know when I'm 30, like that these years are important for me to like develop in my career. Like, even if I only work 25 hours a week, that was like my thing. I was like, just let me stay on is basically like what I went and told them. And they, I think, adjusted it down to like 30-hour minimum so I could keep my benefits and everything. So they were actually pretty nice about the whole thing. I probably worked like 40 to 45, but only got paid for like 30, just kind of the deal we made. But yeah, it was obviously my childhood dream to play professionally. So I was like, I can't pass it up. That's what I was doing literally. So that was August. I actually went to like the open tryout for it. I didn't think I was going to make it or anything. I went to like just a bunch of randoms, you could have signed up, like anyone could have signed up. And like I played really well, got there, and then went to my work, told them that I made it, and they were like, sure.
Damn.
Because I don't think most people really know about how it works, like the lower levels of sport. And then that led all the way to obviously March 2020, COVID hits, things start shutting down. I don't get furloughed yet right off the bat. We go work from home for 2 months. But for people who don't know what my company is, they provide food service for like pretty much every spot around the world, stadiums in England, US, universities. Like there's a good chance that like 2 out of 3 watching video, like probably either eat at a Compass Group place or like their parents do every day. So then I get furloughed technically at the end of May and then officially cut in July. Yeah. Because when people can't go eat, there's nowhere to go for people working in corporate accounting, that when there's no revenue coming in, like, so they just had to unfortunately cut a lot of people.
So it seems like, not to make a light of the situation, but inclusive of Chick-fil-A, you've exclusively worked in food services.
Yes. Yes. Somehow.
Last jab, since everything worked out for you, I wouldn't be asking this if it didn't, but
yeah.
So you were literally like in the heat of all this happening. You were in one of the most devastated industries during COVID, which is the food restaurant service industry.
We lost like 80% of business overnight. It was absurd.
So March, I still remember, like, it was probably second week, first week of March. We were all starting to get emails about going home. This is such a vivid memory. And President Trump makes the European ban announcement. I think that was the trigger, because until then it was people were ignoring it. I remember like my company was sending emails the week before saying, stop wasting time at work talking about COVID. I have a screenshot of that email.
That's funny.
In case something happens. They were saying, don't talk about COVID at work. You guys are wasting time. And I remember reading that. I was like, they're not going to be saying this next week. Exactly a week later, they go, we're carefully monitoring the situation. Not sure what's going to happen. 3 days later, they go, everyone go home. Anyways, but
yeah,
you were seeing this. I actually wasn't going to ask about this, but so March happens, and does the vibe of the company change? Like, were people like, hey, like things aren't looking good, Dylan, like you just started looking, like how does that work?
So my boss at the time, she was tapped in enough to the management meetings where she would hear things that come from the top down. So like it's a $20 billion revenue company. So this is not a small company at all. So like there's obviously a big hierarchy that's making these decisions, but like it would get passed down to us because obviously we're the accounting arm of the headquarters. So we would hear things, and my first convo, she like pulled me aside. She's like, Dylan, like this is not good at all. Like it was when the universities went, because like we such a big portion of our business is universities, because universities I think went first before like corporate locations went home. So when the universities went, like a third of our floor was just like had no more work to do. It was just like, let's keep one accountant on out of 8. It was literally like that. It was like 12.5% of people got to stay on. They just like gutted the floor. They didn't like immediately like get rid of people. They just were furloughing people left and right as we got through like March and May.
Damn.
And it was kind of wild. Like you never heard of this before, never experienced this before. This is your only income. You have no idea what you're going to do. Like people, luckily I was living with my parents at the time, because the headquarters is in Charlotte. So luckily I was able to commute from the house. So all that's happening. People were freaking out. Like
damn.
My coworkers were all the way up into their 60s. And I was like the youngest one at like 22 or whatever at the time. So that was like, it was such like a visceral like experience. And then also all of us were getting sick at the same time because we work right next to the airport. So we have a ton of people flying in all the time. So as people are getting furloughed, we're all getting COVID at the same time in March. And like, at first we thought it was the flu, but like, let's say we had 100 people on the floor, 60 of us were out at one point. Like literally all of us were sick and out. So it kind of like, we were like, okay, COVID's probably real. Like when it first happened to us, because we physically were all like dead, laying in bed. Because I remember my February close, like, so we closed like the first week after each month. And so it was like March, like 5th. I was like so like deathly sick in my bed. I was just like, nothing was going to happen to me, but like, when you're real flu sick where you're like stuck in the bed, and I was still working, had it out on my laptop while I'm just like dripping sweat, like crazy fatigue, all that. And like, I was messaging all the other people at work and they were all having the same thing going on. So that was like, I obviously don't think that we'll ever experience that again, because as soon as something happens, we'll just flip to work from home and, things will shut down. Like even beginning of this semester, you can find me on LinkedIn, so I'll say all my stuff. So I work for UNC-Charlotte as the associate controller there. So during our first 2 weeks, they sent all the students home, but they didn't like furlough the workers this time because they know they're coming back. We just try to reduce our costs and go from there. So it's like, I don't think we'll ever have something as crazy as that happen ever again. But like being in an industry that actually like legitimately was getting rid of everyone was crazy. Like to see all this structure, all this hiring happening for like a year, and then everyone just like boom, like drop of the hat, they're all gone.
That reminded me of what happened to me where banking didn't get hit as hard. The rich always stay rich. But I think big finance definitely took a toll because all these companies were shutting down or pausing, which means that transactions can't occur. And in February, busiest from June to February, my first 9 months of my career, the hottest M&A market in American history, deals left and right. Everyone's a rate maker. Yep. And then becomes March, things shut down. And I remember, so in banking, you have these things called staffing surveys where you submit how many hours you're working so that they can delve you out more work. And everyone was recording, 80, 90 hours. And then for a month, we were all talking about, hey, like, are you going to lie on your staffing survey? Because like, I'm about to put 5. Like there would be weeks.
Was that like, true? Was that like,
yeah. I remember an associate was telling me, an associate who I used to work with a lot. He was a grinder. He's a VP now, and he would work 100 hours weeks. And he Skype messaged me and was like, yo, Brian, like, what are you gonna put in your staffing survey? I was like, dude, I don't know. Like I worked like maybe 10 hours. And the guy was like, if I'm going to be frank, like I worked 0 hours this week. Like I didn't do a single thing because all of our deals shut down. Some of our companies went bankrupt. Other companies were getting sold. Like it was just flames left and right. So it was this, dystopian shit show, for lack of better words. And then, okay, so May happens. You're officially furloughed. Dylan Ritch, smart, hardworking, I got to get things done mentality person. But honestly, this is a hard situation for anyone. What do you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, at first, like when the world shut down, like there was like, everyone was like, are we all going to die? That like first couple of weeks, like, so I just bought a bunch of ramen noodles, went to the store, was like just chilling in my room, eating like 2 ramen noodles a day. I was trying to conserve food. Had no idea what was going on. That was when like everything was shut down. Like you couldn't even go to your local park. Like
the toilet paper was getting stolen off the grocery stores.
Yeah, I like fought someone in like the Harris Teeter, our grocery store, for like one roll of toilet paper. Like threw a can of soup at someone's head to distract them for a second so I could steal something else. No, it was just but like going to the grocery store then was nuts because you have all the moms who have like little kids and stuff and pissed, they're freaking out. Everyone's going full Karen mode. Dads are going Karen mode. Like I'm going Karen mode. Everyone's like, you gotta get yours. One day I actually went to the store. Side note, I just stood there. This was like literally like the second day after the shutdown. And I just kind of watched. I didn't even go in to get anything. I was just like, because I've never seen our parking lot like that packed at the grocery store I go to. It was absolutely nuts. Like people were sprinting. Like there was actual like fervor. Like a murmur in your ear, like in like a Wall Street movie or something. That's what it was like in like a grocery store. And like people were like yelling. It was the most ridiculous thing I've seen. Like there's nothing on the shelves. So during that, I thought like, okay, for one, my soccer career is over. So that was one thing. Like the new season was supposed to start. So that was my first thought, was like, dang, I'm never going to get to play soccer again. And then the second one, because I actually still had my job at that point. I hadn't been officially let go. I'd just been furloughed. And then basically what happened from there is I started to think, okay, we're not all going to die. Like, what do I do? Level up. Like, me, like that's like my next thought. Like, okay, what do I do next? So then I was like, okay, accounting. I've done my work experience of over a year. I wanted to get my CPA. So it's like, okay, what's next on like that route? So I applied for the Masters of Accounting program at UNC-Chapel Hill through the Keenan Flagler Business School, get accepted, start that in July. And then at the same time, I I actually don't remember. So how did I get into the stock market? What was the first thing? Because I didn't know anything about stocks. My mom was like, you should be joining the Williams Investment Society. Were you in WIS?
I was not actually. No.
Okay. Yeah. So for the people watching, like we have this little investment club that you can do at school.
Little.
Yeah. Well, for us at school, like that's what it felt like. It was like, oh, the hardos are doing that. Like you have to really want to be on like Wall Street to be in like the Williams Investment Society.
Quick note, I think the funniest thing about the Williams Investment Society, which is a pretty legitimate society, and they manage $10 million, which is not you know, pocket change. But I think the funniest thing is the Williams Investment Society is literally about investing in public equity. Everyone that goes into the Williams Investment Society becomes investment bankers, which honestly has nothing to do with, well, unless they go into sales and trading or they're working some product group. Like most of them go into M&A like me. And like the two things cannot be more different. I think that's the funniest thing.
Yeah. No, it's like actually like something I 100% like regret now. Like if I could go back and add one thing to my W&L experience, it would have been like, even if I would have never done anything, just like listen to everyone, like present reports and stuff and just learn. Because I had to teach myself all this by myself through YouTube afterwards. Okay, so this was way before GameStop, AMC, like long before that.
Oh yeah, that was February.
The market had like bottomed in like May or something, or April. I can't remember exactly when. Things were starting to go back up and everyone was buying like toilet paper stocks, like Procter & Gamble. They were like, oh, these stocks are going to go crazy. So someone on my Twitter feed must have posted about something that I went and like looked at stocks for the first time in my whole life. And I was 22 at this point. Well, I just turned 23 actually. So I'd never looked at stocks, no background, no anything. I was like, what's this? And then I started Google like day trading and like people say, oh, I make millions day trading and all that. So like, you know, all that like aura around it, like hit me immediately. And I was bored at home. I had nothing to do. So I was like, okay, I'll go look into this. I downloaded, I think Webull was the first one I downloaded, which probably not everyone uses that or even has heard of it. It's just like another brokerage app that you can
actually, funny enough, I think Webull emailed me recently for some like sponsorship thing. Hey, Webull, if you're watching this, please sponsor my videos.
Yeah, no, I'll say this. Webull's it's a great product. I still use it every day. Even when I don't actively like trade on it, I use it to like scan stocks. They have a ton of great stuff. They have crypto on there, so you can see what the markets are doing as well. So basically, I just started like looking up. I was like, tickers. I was like, my grandma used to talk about the Dow being down all the time or being up all the time. I was like, what is that? So I was like, looked up Dow and I was like, oh, this is a collection of 30 of the best companies in American history that are still active today. And I was like, oh, so it's not just one stock, it's like a basket. And so I started to go into that whole process of like basically like learning what actually is the stock market. That's just like a collection of companies and there's different indexes that have different number of stocks. So I started learning all that. I was like, all right, what's this day trading thing? Because I want to get rich fast. Like that was like the first thing. I was like, if I'm at home every day, I want to get rich off of this. And people were posting like 1,000% gains. Like, because looking back at it now, like the hedge funds and institutions, like their algorithms were like going crazy because all of these prices had dropped ridiculously without really any fundamental changes in the business. So like there was a ton of like just great buying opportunities at like the big dip due to COVID. And I mean, if you look at a chart of that time period, it literally just went ding, ding. And so like everyone made free money. So if any of the hedge funds like just absolutely like levered themselves like 10 times at the somewhat near the bottom, like they made 100 times their money, which as you can see, a lot of people did. Like thinking back now, if we would know what we know now, we'd be like, oh, we'll just jump in, turn our 1,000 into like 50,000. So all that's happening. I have no idea what any of it means. So I'm just like learning about it. And I eventually put a little money in and like anything you bought at that time made you money. So you automatically won. It was like going to a casino and you had 100% chance of winning. Absolute worst thing for people's brains. So I go and I win small money here and there. And then I have a couple like small losses, but it doesn't outweigh the gains because everything was just running. So basically like, I'm like, okay, I'm so good at this. Like I know which stocks to take. And I know 99.9% of other Americans at the time we got in had the exact same thing happen to them. But I won't get into what happens next just yet because I'll tell the full story. So I'm in my Master's of Accounting that I'm doing. I'm taking a few classes and then I'm day trading during the day, like learning about the markets at that time. So that's like May. I start in July in Master's of Accounting. That's like what I do for the rest of 2020. No soccer, no nothing. I do that.
All right. So And I think I'm not saying you're not special, but to your point, I think during this time there was a boom of day traders. Like this is why Robinhood did so well, because everyone had
Yeah.
all the time in the world. Stocks were behaving super weirdly. On top of that, and I probably fed into this, but people are making YouTube content left and right on finance stuff because it's a
Yeah.
hot button topic. So everyone feels like they can make millions of dollars, whatever, make thousands of dollars off this money. But I want to pump you up a bit. I think back to this a lot when I started first hearing that you were doing this, and I remember instantly I was thinking Dylan's going to do well because Dylan's going to channel his soccer mentality and do this thing where he practices and gets it to the T. Day trading as a whole, I think people think it's gambling, but it's a very disciplined, emotionless practice that you could do very well if you tell yourself, I'm going to get in here, I'm going to get out here, no matter how much it happens. And if you chase, you lose money. And I remember thinking like, Dylan is going to do so freaking well because when it comes to these kind of things, he can get super emotionless. But I think one thing that you touched on that I want the audience to get more of is you obviously need to get educated, and you're coming from, knowing what a DAO is and not knowing what a ticker is. What was the process of, how did you start learning? How did you even know where to start? Because it's so overwhelming. There's so much information.
Well, like literally since I was like maybe 12, I've always turned to YouTube. Like if I've ever had a question, like literally I will just go to YouTube, Google how to whatever. And 99.9%, like there's someone who's like an expert in their field who can tell you how to do it. Sometimes you have to click through like 5 or 6. So let's say I want to learn something. I never go on the first one. I always watch like 5 or 6. And by the third or fourth, someone will debunk what the first 2 said. So word of advice, if you're ever trying to learn something, make sure you watch like multiple people. And normally by the end of that, like I'll know mostly what they're talking about. And then stock market related things, I'll go to Investopedia next. That thing is crazy. So it's literally Investopedia, Investopedia, for anyone who wants to learn. It is literally the best Bible/dictionary for like not just stock market related things, like finance related terms that you don't understand. If you come from a background of like my family works hard and like we did fine, but like not a finance family whatsoever. And you need to learn all these basic terms, like what does stock market mean or anything like that. Or what does investment banking mean? When I heard like people going to iBanking, I was like, what the heck is that? I was like, I thought people just go work for big companies and make money. So I had to like learn all these little terms. Like, what does this ticker mean? There's actually more than one stock market exchange. There's the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange. There's stuff in Tokyo, China, like Europe has their own stock exchange. I thought everything was like on one at first as well. So like all these little things I had to connect. So it was like YouTube, Investopedia, then going on Twitter account, following the wrong Twitter accounts, and eventually finding the right Twitter accounts that actually know what they're talking about. So it was like those 3 together. It was like Twitter, Investopedia, and YouTube. I started to like gain knowledge of it. And then some of it was like confirmation bias because like something someone said would happen when the reason it happened, like later I learned was just pure luck. Right. But like that actually like it actually got me further into it faster because like things kept working, quote unquote. So then, but I started losing in like November of 2020. So I'd been winning for like a couple months straight. And so I literally lose all my gains plus what I put in. So I blew up my account. But it was only like $2,000 or something I put in. So I'd started out with only like 2,000 at first, to like kind of keep my risk down. Cause I knew like people weren't the stock market was a gamble. Then, so I was like, okay, something is like seriously wrong. Like what is going on? Because like I had learned, I knew what was going on. And I started to realize that if I wanted to day trade correctly, I really needed to learn. So then in December, I started to, so I had two accounts at the same time. So I had one that I was just like doing random stuff with. And then another that I had been disciplined with the whole time. I'd been applying a strategy that I've been learning about, like intraday, like there was like a pop or a drop in the mornings. And I would look for good companies like Tesla or something that would have a drop and you could see the supply and demand levels in like the candlesticks of the price. And I'd been applying that strategy the whole time. So I've been successful with that. So one, my stupid YOLO strategy, which I buy whatever was hot during the day, stopped working finally. But my other disciplined one, like you mentioned earlier, of like that I'd actually been applying with legitimate strategy and working towards was working. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. Because the second strategy was the one that like the day traders that have been day trading for 25 years like actually do, where they're
Right.
in and out within like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. And they don't try to hit these ridiculous home runs where they make $1 million a day. They're just like, I just want to make $100.
Mm.
I just want to be able to pay my rent at the end of the month, whatever. Because these guys do it full time. So then in December, I started doing like 16, 18-hour days where I would trade for 30 minutes, but I would literally just like research for like 16, 17 hours. It was like nuts, where I was just like combing every line in Investopedia, watching every YouTube video. I was like, and then there's this thing you can do on Thinkorswim, which is the TD Ameritrade day trading platform where you can actually go back in time. It's called their on demand feature. So you can go back to like 1967 and trade stocks that day or something random like that. So I would actually go back and redo the day and retrade the day based on like different things that I thought I saw after the day. So then I started to like literally, the whole 10,000 hours thing. I literally just started to add up hours. And then like you said, I started to turn myself into a robot. Like if I have 3 criteria I'm looking for in a day, like 1, good news, or 2, the price is at a supply zone based on like, okay, a bunch of people bought here just to like keep it like not going into crazy terms.
Sure.
Like, oh, it's a supply zone where like people have previously bought the stock in droves. And then 3, what percentage is the drawdown? If it's like a 5% drawdown intraday on like Tesla or Apple, that's not going to stick, or our financials probably going to crumble very quickly and we're going to enter a recession. That was literally my whole thought process. Like, there's certain stocks that can't go down that much in a day, or there's something like seriously wrong. As you're seeing like recently the past couple of days, like you're starting to see like we're starting to crumble a little bit in lots of different markets. But back in 2020, that wasn't happening. So basically the strategy, I started to work on it and I started to be successful. So I started to do like 1% a day or like 2% a day. And eventually compounded. And then that led into us starting Mint City Holdings Group. Well, me pitching it initially to you and 7 other guys.
Okay. So you just threw bombs of knowledge. To summarize really quick, Investopedia must do. You obviously need time. I think that's like the crucial part. And Dylan had someone all the time in the world during this time in a very fortunate way. But 3, I think the discipline part I would say is probably the most important, because you can't get emotional about it. Same thing with same thing with crypto, same thing with flipping NFTs. It can't get emotional. You just gotta set. I'm gonna get in here and get out here. I'm gonna look for these criteria and happen.
I turned it into a like legitimate job for myself, even though I had no one on top of me. I was like, these are my rules, and I'm going to put in 12 hours today. Exactly. And like I would stick to that like every day for 2 months on end at a time before it led to like the next phase. But like to break it down for people, it was actually not that complicated of a process, because people have the info out there for you. It was just, if I got a new topic of something I didn't know, like supply and demand zones or support and resistance is probably what you would hear. Like I would spend like 4 hours learning that. And then I would go find a real life example of that when I would like trade like a previous days. And I would go see like, oh, this Tesla's not going to go below like 500 or whatever. This is just, for instance, like I would see how Tesla's stock price would react with like the 500 level. And you would start to see like buying, and the candlesticks would have these wicks where like you could see it bounce off the 500. So like I would do that. I would try to dumb it down for myself, because, I am not a computer. Like I can't just like immediately buy at 500. It was just like, okay, I need to really simplify this whole thing and learn a lot. But that was like the whole process. I'll just do that over and over again.
I actually can't echo this enough. I think right now, I want to say 80% of skills, you have no excuse aside from you actually might not have time to get to a certain level of proficiency anymore. But the amplitude of resources in anything that is free and high quality, because the content market incentivizes content creators to make the best of content, is unbelievable, especially like high demand, high reward skills like trading or coding. It's solely about the mentality of going and saying, I'm okay not knowing this. I'm not going to be impatient. This is not going to be an overnight thing. There's no way you learn this overnight. If anything, it's going to take you years. But you can't have this excuse of, I don't know where to learn it from anymore, because it's out there. I think it's hard sometimes to navigate around like the dog poop out there, because there's plenty of bad content, like investment banking content made by Brian John. But I think there, if you really get into it and you, I think something that I've also recognized as I've become an internet learner is you also gain the skill of figuring out which content is good or bad. That feeling becomes very innate, and it takes you shorter and shorter to figure it out. Sometimes when I look at a thumbnail, I already know this guy's full of it.
Yeah.
Or I know that this guy's very legit.
You can tell who's a grifter, like once you watch enough or like you read enough. And then like it like frustrates me because I see like people who like just repeat talking points of maybe like Graham Stephan or someone like that, like actually is good at what they do and know what they're talking about, and they just repeat it. And I'm like, you don't actually know what you're doing. Like you're gonna lead like sheep to the slaughter. Like you know, like that's the thing that like, well, because I had that happen to me when I was talking about where I blew one of my 2 accounts up because I was looking at like 21-year-olds who like me had just started trading, and like I shouldn't have been following them at the start. I should, like, the strategy I learned from like a 55-year-old guy who'd been trading for like 25 years. Like who had been successful and like done this through like the .com blow up in like 2000. Like he had learned all these risk management strategies and stuff. That's like a really good point. Like I was thinking about making a YouTube channel myself. We've talked about this before. And my number one reason why I haven't done it to this point, and I probably will, because I think I do provide some good advice on like personal finance and like day trading side of things.
Dylan, I'm just going to say, when this video drops, you're going to be famous.
Dude, I would love that. I hope people are like lining up at my door. I'll sign some autographs.
With my current views going down, I don't think so.
Yeah. What if this is viral? No, I'm kidding. Interviews are so tough to like viral.
There.
But like even if like, you know, 1,000 of your subscribers like actually like learn something from the video, then like me going through that whole process is like worth it. And like
I agree.
Kind of teach you to avoid. Like I'm never the type of person to be like, you should avoid day trading like 99.9% of other people. I'm like, you should avoid doing the stupid stuff that comes along with like day trading. Like if you're legitimately interested in how like stocks are valued on the stock market and you think like you would like to learn, okay, you know, I can buy it at this time and sell it this time. Like there's a way to learn that and like not hurt the rest of your life and like actually develop a useful skill, because like it can become a side income thing. But the whole thing of like, I'm going to make 100% in a month and double my money every month is not realistic, stuff like that. And you get so much bad content out there, like Brian speaking. And like you get bad content on like accounting, like because there's no barrier to entry on YouTube. Like anyone can post anything and anyone can develop any type of following. So sifting through that is like, I actually believe if you're a young person today, sifting through bad content is like one of the most valuable skills you can develop.
100%. I think there should be a class that genuinely in elementary school about content deciphership. Like I think that's a genuine skill. Okay, before we get to your third trimester, your final act, the punchline here.
The current stuff.
I need a catchy clickbait, not even clickbait. I need a thumbnail quote. But so to run through the story. So Dylan graduated college, went to accounting, COVID, furlough, started grinding hard. And then there's gonna be a punchline in February of 2020. Or yes, 2021. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But Dylan, to the extent that you could share / tease, ever since you started becoming knowledgeable and actually putting in real time and not just winning just because everyone's winning, what was the rate of return by the point you pitched us the thing in February?
So from about, I would say the data I used to talk to Brian and the other guys was about halfway through November through maybe halfway through January or something. I'd done it for like 40 to 50 trading days of like maybe like 1 or 2 losses or something. And it led up to like a 73% return over that period. So like you have $1,000, it's 1,730, which like for people who don't know the stock market, like that's like a pretty good return for like a 5-year period that like people would be happy with. So basically it was just like the compound interest. If none of you have ever seen this on like a calculator, go find like a compound interest calculator. You can type in like annuity calculator and put $1,000 in and do 1%, and then do like, it will say years on the side, ignore the years thing, just pretend they're days, and do like 100 days. And like your money will like triple, quadruple. It gets nuts. Well, that actually happened to me in like real life. And that's why I was like, okay, wait, if I can even just win like 0.2% a day, and I would go in that calculator and do it, like I was like, this thing can just like add up like crazy. It's like, so then I went to the guys. Granted,
Wait. Pause here. I think just for the people that are not as familiar with finance instruments, I think just to make a relative comparison,
yeah,
a savings account, 0.001% return. I would say there's no return. And I just take a step, even one more step back. Compound interest, I think people need to understand. The easiest way to think about it is you have $100 and a dollar is made on the $100. You now have $101. You are now making that same return on the $101. And now that continues to multiply. Savings account, no money. Boomer accounts like bonds, 1% at best. 1% is a lot for a year, for a year's return. Then you have like the S&P 500, which is slightly less boomer, but that's on average 10% over the past 100 years.
Yeah,
with some years becoming negative, other years like 2020 skyrocketing. Dylan was able to make 1%, 2% a day and have that compound and hit 70% return from the get-go of learning about the stuff for a 3-4 month period.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And like full transparency, like that did happen a little bit as the AMC and GameStop stuff was happening, but I did not trade AMC or GameStop. So granted, there were probably some gains that were like inflated. So like if you wanted to say, oh, it was like true 45% off of like my trading strategy, I wouldn't even argue with you. Like you could even like take it down. But like it's more so like if you're getting more than 10% over like a 3-month period with like a consistent strategy that like you're repeating every day, like you have found something that probably works like in the stock market.
And one thing I want to hit on is by win rate, your win rate was like 90+%, right?
It was like 95% of my trades I was winning on. It was getting something ridiculous. And like you can say like the stock market helps that, and I'm not going to argue with anyone on that.
Sure.
Like obviously like a bull market helps a ton. But for people who didn't know the way I was trading, I was literally just looking for like, I was watching the top companies in the world. I was looking for when they would dip at really random times during the day, and they would dip like hard. And I was like this price is not going to be like accepted for the next 5 minutes. And I would just buy in. I would wait like 5, 10, 15 minutes, and it would run back up, and I would take my literal 0.2, 0.3% on each trade. Like that's all it was. It was nothing complicated. It was just people are going to buy here. I'm going to sell as soon as everyone starts buying. And it was just, that's literally what the whole strategy, nothing crazy. I'm not going to make $1 million a day. I'm just going to do something very simple. And my other thing is I would have stop loss. So like if it would dip further on me, I was out of the trade. Like if it wasn't I didn't have an actual physical stop loss. I had a mental stop loss. I was like, the stock should do this. It should bounce here and go up here. If it doesn't, I'm out because what I saw was wrong. And so I started to just do that multiple times a day over time.
Okay, so now it's February and you're like, yo, this is something. Like I'm actually kind of good at this. And this is interesting. But I am a team player. I want people to come in with me. I need more money, right? I'm speaking in your perspective. And I want to do this with friends. So you get together a group of us, and then what do you do?
So basically there was like a couple of different things. Like one, yes, and people who know me, like I hate like just doing stuff like selfishly, like on my own. I was like, if I can actually make money in this, like I would want my friends to do it with me. Like I would want to like spread the wealth. And then 2, I needed pressure. Like I needed like a pressure cooker. Like I don't think I've ever spoken to you. Like I needed that because I wanted to see if I could actually like hang it. Like if I want to be with the big boys or like make this like a job one day, like I need to feel pressure, like real money, real skin in the game. I needed to be like held to a standard as I go. And then the other thing, I thought, okay, let me get some of my smart friends that I trust in. Like I know they'll help me be able to find, because like my whole strategy is like I need to find the best stocks, the best businesses, because it makes it easier for me to trade when I know that like all the funds and institutions are going to be buying them as well, because it makes it easy knowing that my stock's not going to go down 70% over 3 months. It's probably going to go up over 3 months. So putting together the basket of stocks that we did over time was easy. So those are kind of like the 3 things I was looking at. And that's why I was like, I need to find people that can help me accomplish this goal. And then we put in a nominal amount of money, nothing crazy. And we had a little fund to trade out of. Basically, that was what I needed. I needed just a little more capital to enter more trades than what I could out of my own account. And it was side money that like none of us were going to get hurt if we ended up at zero, nothing crazy. And then the added pressure also making it a little bit. So we formed an LLC, made it a legitimate business. We've had like month or weekly meetings like as we can for almost a year now. I think we're about to come up on the year anniversary pretty soon. We should find that date. Have a little Zoom party.
We should. Honestly, this video is going to come out exactly a year from that date. I know because I just got a reminder on my Google Photos that I was at Tyler's house today a year ago.
Oh, no way.
Actually, this is going to come out exactly a year from that date.
That's wild.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dylan, you made this, LLC. We put together money. You pitched it. Obviously, we're all in because we trust you and you're gonna do well. I'm also not gonna dismiss that 2021 also was a insane bull year and people were doing well, but also just the tease and for the virality and hype value. How well did we do last year?
So I guess it's kind of hard to do like an annualized because you have to like multiply it. But I guess we can annualize it. Basically, if you annualize our return, we traded for about 6 months super actively. And then I picked up my job in October and started realizing that if we wanted to make things official, I needed to get some certifications and other things to bring in more than just us. So things slowed down towards the end of this past year, but we had gone over 70% over 6 months with not just my own, with the group as a whole. And like that was, so I wasn't, here's the crazy thing. Like I wasn't trading the full fund every day.
Right.
So I was making that on like small portions. So we basically, it would have been like 140% for a year if we would have just kept going at that rate. Which was absolutely crazy. So it was going even better than expected. And here's this is a massive caveat. Like when you guys hear this, do not go and do this. I started to incorporate options a little bit into it.
Yep.
So basically what it is, and like, if you don't know options, you have to go learn about it. All this, like, do not go trade an option. Well, you can't today. But next week, because we're recording this on a Saturday, do not go and do this. Like 100% do not. It took me I spent like 4 months, like researching the mechanisms of an options. Like I actually went and researched the actual formula of how the option is calculated to figure out what the best part of the option to buy is when the price will move the quickest. So I would apply the exact same strategy. I would just buy a call option when I thought it was going to pop up a little bit. And instead of getting my 1% gain, I'd get like a 6% gain. But don't go and do that. You got to really teach yourself and learn that. So that's why the returns that I was getting on my trade started to go up more and more. And even though I was trading less of the fund, we were still able to get very similar returns to what we were doing. So it was a very just unique, simple, non-crazy strategy that was 100% just from like pure research and back testing. Like I had another thing called Trade Ideas where I would back test. I would pay like $300 a month just to have the ability to like back test strategies, do that like all the time. So it's just a lot of research. None of this get rich quick stuff like that you're seeing on YouTube, Instagram, none of that.
I think the most absurd thing, thinking back, and Dylan's going to share more about how it's going to become more official and talk about a soccer thing, but or I guess our soccer thing. It's not the rate of return. Like we were, in grand scheme of things, we're doing pocket change. But it's the win rate. Out of the 6 months I was actively traded, I would say at minus like 2-3 weeks, it was all green.
Yeah. I think, 2 red weeks out of like 30.
Out of 30.
And one like straight neutral week, I believe. Right. And 27 green weeks. Yeah. Like to let people know, like we didn't do it on the daily because like some days you have bad days. We would do it weekly. We would do like weekly reports. And so like that's a 90% like green, which is like for people who don't know, like that's kind of wild.
It's absurd.
Not to my own, like whatever strategy like it was working. So I wasn't going to stop it. I wasn't going to be like, oh, I'm going to go try to make more money. I was like, it's working, so I'm just going to keep going.
God. Okay, we're going to finish off with a bang.
Yeah.
Bigger picture, Dylan, obviously passionate about soccer. You and your brothers are all passionate about soccer. So what is the bigger picture play we're going for here? Obviously, we're all very supportive of it. Give us the update on what is Men's City. So there's two things going on, like to give people. So we are turning that trading into like over time, we're probably going to turn it into a hedge fund style thing where it's basically like what Robinhood
should have actually done, where like they're actually going to give money back to the people. Like we're going to basically kind of like the whole premise is going to be like we're going to teach people like what we actually like will do, how you can actually make money in the stock market, like long-term investing for like the vast majority of people. But for the people that actually would like to get into day trading and stuff, like, you know, we'll actually like teach them how to do that. And then there will probably be like an actively traded fund by me or something over time. That's still in the works. You have to get a lot of certifications, a lot of license, all that. So that's like Mint City Holdings Group. Mint Hill FC, so MHFC or Mint Hill FC on Instagram, Twitter. What else do we have? Facebook. Instagram. Yeah. So Brian's a part owner. I'm an owner, and I'm the president CEO, just because we have a title, because we're technically a C corporation for our ownership structure, even though we're probably not going to be raking any money out of it. So we just have some titles assigned. It's a semi-pro soccer team based out of Mint Hill, North Carolina, which I said before is the eastern suburb of Charlotte. And we compete in the 4th division. Basically, there's a couple of 4th divisions. It's like single A for baseball. So it's like you have guys who have played professionally, who are just working full-time, like myself, that play for the team. High schoolers on the team that are very talented, trying to go professionally play in college. And it's like a community-based club that we're giving out chances to the local soccer community. Plus, we have like a professional development side of the club where we're literally teaching financial literacy. Like we spoke about, like I knew nothing. So like I'm basically trying to make sure what happened to me, like even though I'm going to turn out fine, you know, like work hard, all that. But if I can help people avoid like all those years of randomly not knowing what they're doing, it'll be good. So we have like those two sides of things. And then on a pure ambition side of things, we want to turn it into a professional club over time. So our first seasons, we actually just got our unofficial schedule. March 26th is our first game. This first is Brian's heard of it, actually.
It is.
Legitimately, because we just got it yesterday. So into March we start, and we're going to have a fun team, some cool jerseys and stuff. We'll actually have stuff to buy if anyone on the channel is interested in the future. It should actually be some cool stuff that people will want to wear around. One of our guys, Connor Wharton, has done a great job designing our logo and a lot of other stuff. So like that's the club. Yeah, this is like the two things. And then plus I do work full time as an associate controller, and like I'm growing my career in like that side of things. So like I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, what piece of advice would I give to people about this? Like there's so much competition, YouTube, everything. Like you want to have your own business one. There's so much competition, and you got like these guys on YouTube saying you got to quit your job and like do this full time and put your whole life online. Like I don't fully agree with that today. Like you can optimize your time with YouTube, connecting with people that you know, like connecting with Brian and the other guys, like has helped me advance in my career. Just like being able to talk things out with them. Like you can do this in your spare time after you have your quote unquote day job that pays for your living expenses and allows you to get a house one day and eventually get married to whomever you choose. Like all those things can happen through like your day job while you're still practicing your thing on the side. And so that's kind of like how we are right now. We all have day jobs, but we meet and we talk about the things that we want to do in the future and things that we would like to become full-time by the time we're ready to retire, all that. And they're like fun things. And we're trying to make the fun things in our life become like our day jobs essentially, instead of having like slave way like all the time. But I think everyone in our group has pretty decently fun, well compensated jobs, so none of us are like overly depressed, except for Tyler, who watches this.
Except for Tyler, the chemical engineer with a master's degree.
Yeah,
living alone in West Virginia. Dylan, you're making me look bad in terms of how eloquent you are being right now about.
Whoops.
I can't stress this enough. I'm going to actually go strong and down on this point. I'm really against people. I think it's very irresponsible for people in our shoes or older to come on YouTube and tell 15-year-old, 18-year-old kids and say, screw college, pursue your dreams, become a content creator. This is a career economy. You can live anything you want. That's a very irresponsible thing to say by adults who have either been very lucky or have done full-time jobs, got a side gig, and then made it a full-time gig. To tell people to just do that because it is your life and YOLO, I think it's quite possibly the most irresponsible thing that is bringing this society into shambles, because there's an entire generation of kids who truly believe if they put in the work, they could become the next Charlie D'Amelio or Grahams, whatever. These people are particularly anomaly individuals who some of which are born with unbelievably big talents or come from big money or none of which is bad or are particularly good looking, all of which have to perfectly align, plus timing, plus be at the right place at the right time, plus know the right people to take off. And I think a flip way of saying that is there's a certain level of comfort that comes with pursuing these things while having a real job. If anything, it allows you to perform better, in my opinion, because you have a fallback. When something becomes your only means of survival, you become very desperate. You become so drenched in what you're doing. It's not going to allow you to do well in what you're doing.
Yeah. And the caveat for that, like, and Brian agrees with this point I'm about to make. It's like when we say this, it is not to say you should not chase your dreams or anything like that, because we just have kind of been through the process a little bit ourselves.
Yes.
And we know that some of like the sunshine and rainbows that gets pumped out by some other, like Graham Stephan himself, like, I don't think he has ever said anything about quitting your job, but like what he did, he worked in real estate for years. He was successful on his own as a side job while he still had a full-time job. Now he gets to do YouTube and all his real estate as a full-time job. But like he like took his licks, like bided his time and like built his side thing on the side and became his full thing. Basically, like, okay, if you have a dream, great. Don't let anyone ever take that away from you. Tuck it away, become very mentally strong, very protective about it. Never let anyone like basically get in your head and tell you your dream's not worth it. But at the same time, you need to be intelligent and smart about the way you go about it. Now, if you have a dream, think of the end point, build back from that, and realize that, like, okay, if I want to be making millions of dollars one day, like, you don't get to that unless you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, like sleeping in their office and like working like they worked investment banking jobs or whatever before them to have the capital for the thing. So there's certain steps that I think even my age people, I'm 24, about to turn 25. Like, we still need to not get ahead of ourselves because we see the end product way too much nowadays. Like, so I'll say two things. One, don't let your dream ever get like taken away from you just because of what other people say. So protect it, want it more than you want to breathe. Like all those things, like you hear in the most motivational videos, but at the same time, know that this is not the same economy that like our parents or our grandparents grew up in, where like there was literal just like forests for people to say, I stake this claim on this land. You have to pay me $1 million for it. Like, we're in a society where like everything's already been done, essentially.
Facts.
We're trying to create brand new things. You need to take your time and be very smart about it and be willing to work, because that's the thing that's going to make you successful. Be willing to work your day job and then also work your side thing. Like, it's tough. Like, I know it's so hard after your day at work to like go put 4 hours into your side thing. But like, I promise you, if you have a dream that you really want and it's actually going to happen, like law of attraction, you put that in daily over time, on the weekends, like you're going to get your end result that you want. But that's just my piece of advice on that.
Dang, dude, you're making me like flustered. I'm renewing my sense of pursuing this. I want to reemphasize your point about never in history were we so overwhelmed, getting drowned out by solely the end product. We are constantly fed the end product, extremities of end products, where we only see anomaly end results and successes, that it feels like if we are not partaking in such successes, we are failures and we're not there.
Yep.
Reality is 99.99999% of this world aren't billionaires. 99.999% of this world aren't content creators or successful ones. 99.99% aren't going to retire at 30. Most of the things that are being preached, sometimes by the people preaching them, aren't happening. I think that's so important to realize. And you should only be pursuing things if it actually interests you and it's fun. You can't switch the motivation and the method. I think that's a big mix up everyone does constantly. The reason why, and Dylan and I are nowhere close to success, and we're micro influencer, whatever you call it. But I think the reason why it worked is because Dylan came from a soccer background. He's obviously a pretty smart guy, but he was fascinated by the stock thing. And one thing that I want to emphasize is my YouTube channel is somewhat success, and Dylan's a clear success in stock trading. I would argue 70% influenced by timing and luck, in the sense that we happened to catch the COVID wave. It's a lot of it has nothing to do with us individually. If you replaced us with anyone else in the same scenario, they would have done equally as well, if not better, in my most humble
Mhm.
opinion. I tell people all the time. People are always like, "What do you think is a success to like you even having a YouTube channel or having thousands of subscribers?" I think it's because I was at the right place at the right time, being the right person. Just know what people weren't making investment making YouTube videos, and everyone was on YouTube from February or March to August
Yeah.
of 2020 because there was nothing better to do. I
Mhm.
think there is no other reason.
Like, well, the the other thing is there's lots of people with great personalities. Like, part of the main reason why you are successful, you have a great personality. And the side of like, oh, why I could be successful is I was willing to like analyze and research and work. There's lots of people who can do that as well. So there's tons of people like us out there that look differently, think differently, like that could have done it. But the thing is like timing, luck, yes. And then also once you get there, here's the most important thing. If you get something, if you get a special opportunity, you have to want it so badly, or else someone else is going to come take it from you. That's the thing. Like once you get there, like it sucks. You have to be willing to put in the work. You hear this like all the time, but like we do this. Like Brian doesn't get subscribers or pump out like YouTube videos just because he just like sits around. Like he works, thinks about them, plans them out. You know, I plan out trades. I plan out things with the soccer club. Like I'm on a Friday night when I could go home from work, instead of leaving at 5, I don't leave till 11.
Right.
Because I put in those 6 hours into planning out my next week of things that I have to get done for the soccer club or stuff. It's like, it's nothing that's like life-changing. It's literally doing what successful people have done before, just applying it to our lives nowadays. That's the only like caveat on like why me and Brian will be successful over like long-term, whether it's YouTube, stock trading. Like it's just, once you get that little like switch in your head. I talked to Buddy about this. You were pretty good friends with Buddy. Like I'm not going to say too much about what he's doing because I want to leave his personal life to his personal life. But like he is so successful at what he does whenever he decides to do something, because up here, I mean, we're not the smartest people at the time. He's so locked in on his work rate. When he flips a switch and he decides to do something and he gets his chance, he makes sure it happens, because he doesn't go eat a bag of potato chips and watch a movie instead of putting in his work. So that's the thing. Like what people pump out on like YouTube and Instagram about hard work, that is the one thing that is true, bar none.
I agree.
Everything else you have to take with caveat, but that is the one thing that is true.
I agree. And to pat ourselves on the back, for those of you watching, this is recorded on a Saturday at noon. We're working weekends. Damn, Dylan, I'm glad the conversation went this way. If anything, I want to clip this last part and just post that instead. Thanks for talking with your buddy for an hour and a half. As we close off, I think I want to summarize really quickly for those of you that were watching. I think one thing that, as I said in the beginning of the video, I really want high school students, college students, I guess ironically, to understand that there's different career paths out there. This is in no way saying drop all you do and spend 100% every time day trading, because you might not be the day trader. I do think it's important to find some level of stability, find a accounting job, banking job, or whatever, but constantly thinking about, what do I really want to do? What can I actually exert my time into? Have that foothold of getting a good college degree, whether you like it or not. Like college is not going away anytime soon. You could say it's a scam, but I think there's something to be said about, if there is a structure, you should follow the structure to a certain degree and bend it and use it to your own advantage. So I want to get off my philosophical pedestal. Dylan, before you sign off and lose your moments of fame, is there anything else you want to market, promote, talk about yourself?
No, like I think obviously people that watch your videos, you're a part owner of the club. Like our games will be played online, and anyone who is interested in soccer, like it's a cool thing to see a small club like literally start the show. And probably something we should have done is we probably need to start like making some little 5-minute clips of like building the club and stuff, so people can actually see, oh, like 99% of building a sports team is just like working emails, calling, like trying to get your prices down, like all of that. And like, it's 1% of like wearing the cool jersey on the field, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a cool project we're doing. If you want to be involved or like see what we're doing, follow it on any of the socials. It's literally Mint Hill FC on any of Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. And then the other thing is like, I think as we go and make things happen, Brian will probably let you guys know about opportunities to like speak with some of the guys in the group, or speak with us too about how we can help you guys in your career. And basically, like, I'm a big believer of like, my life is my life in the sense that it's me, but my life is basically based around the fact that I need to give out as much knowledge and energy and passion to as many people as possible around me. So, we'll create something in the future, and Brian will post about it, where you guys can get in touch with me if you have any questions about anything that might have piqued your interest today. Or actually, I might just I'll create a separate email and I'll shoot it over to Brian before we post it. And you guys can just email me any questions, and we can set up a call or something just to talk through stuff.
Sure.
If it piqued any of your interest today, just walk you through it, because that's probably the biggest thing. Get mentors, people that know what they're doing in the industry you want to get into, because you just need to talk to them, because they'll tell you what works, what doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just those last little nuggets of advice, I think, will save you years of mess ups and failures, and help you get stuff done. It doesn't matter whether you're 40, 50, 20, 15, like, stopping right now and reassessing everything and making sure you do things in the right way is the most important thing.
No, Dylan, I'm gonna pin a comment at the top and link all of our Mintel stuff and the email that you send. But two things. I think you unpurposefully said this, but making a soccer club, 99% emails, 1% fun stuff. I think that's most cool things in life. Once again, back to the end product thing. People are constantly fed that 1%, but realistically, you have to think about the 99% that goes into that. One thing that I've been saying a lot, regardless of your political view of the Logan Paul, Jake Paul brothers, one thing that I think about is, I don't think I can do what they can do. I think people always, crap on them for who they are. The amount of effort, at least before, that goes into what they're doing to stay relevant for half a decade is not something that you just casually do. I'm not going to.
Their staying power is wild, and they're probably at their peak right now.
Exactly. And the fact that they're always open to newer, cooler opportunities to go from Vines to NFTs to boxing. I'm not. This is not a Paul Brothers show session, but I'm saying we often see the 1%, but the 99% of work is there. And then number two, I think the mentor point is essential. Looking back, I wish I had more mentors when I was younger. I wish I saw the value of mentors, and I continue to seek them out now. Dylan, thanks for spending your precious Saturday with me.
No, we probably would have done this anyways and not recorded.
We would have. You'll obviously be a regular on the show. Before we sign off, one thing that I always do, can I get a let's go from you?
Let's go.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
I've been dreaming of that. All right, see you,
All right. Talk soon, Dylan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.